Somewhere in Toronto, right now, a wrecking crew is tearing apart the bridge of the USS Enterprise. The captain's chair gone. The view screen that once gazed out at the final frontier, dismantled. The consoles, the panels, the gleaming Starfleet insignia that millions of fans grew up believing in, all of it being hauled away, piece by piece, in a silence. This isn't a cliffhanger. This isn't a season finale. This is the end. Welcome back. If you're a Star Trek fan, and given that you clicked on this video, there's a very good chance you are, then what I'm about to walk you through is going to hit differently than most news stories. Because this isn't just about a TV show getting canceled. This is about the dismantling of an entire universe, a creative ecosystem, a franchise that, just a few years ago, felt absolutely unstoppable. Here's the situation as it stands today. Star Trek currently has 0 active productions, no shows in pre-production, no series greenlit, no cameras rolling. For the first time in nearly a decade, the Star Trek franchise is sitting completely, utterly still, and the evidence that this moment is real and not temporary is being physically demolished in a studio lot in Toronto as we speak. The sets for Star Trek, Starfleet Academy, and Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, 2 of the most visually ambitious productions Paramount Plus ever greenlit, are being torn down. And when you lose the sets, you lose the foundation. You lose the thing that makes it easy to come back. That's not a pause. That's a period at the end of a sentence. Let's talk about how we got here, and what it actually means for the future of one of science fiction's most beloved franchises. To understand how significant this moment is, you have to understand just how dominant Star Trek was on Paramount Plus at its peak. Cast your mind back not even that long ago. Paramount Plus, freshly launched and desperate to compete with Netflix, HBO Max, and Disney Plus, made Star Trek its crown jewel. The strategy was bold, almost reckless in its ambition. Don't just have one Star Trek show, have all the Star Trek shows. At its height, the franchise had 5 active series running simultaneously on the platform. 5. Discovery was barreling through the distant future. Picard was resurrecting one of the most iconic characters in television history. Strange New Worlds was charming critics and casual viewers alike with its gorgeous, episodic throwback format. Lower Decks was making the nerds laugh harder than they had in years with its animated irreverence. And Prodigy, originally exiled to Netflix in a baffling corporate shuffle, was keeping the flame alive for a younger generation. 5 series, 5 different tones, 5 different corners of the galaxy, 5 different reasons to keep your Paramount Plus subscription active. It was an extraordinary moment for the franchise. And then, one by one, the lights started going out. Discovery concluded its run after 5 seasons, a somewhat controversial ending, but an ending nonetheless. Picard wrapped its 3-season arc, delivering a genuinely emotional farewell to the Next Generation crew. Lower Decks was canceled. Prodigy had already been bounced to Netflix before it could even catch its breath on its original home, which left Strange New Worlds, which left Starfleet Academy. And now, there's nothing left at all. Star Trek, Starfleet Academy joined the Paramount Plus lineup in January 2026, and there was genuine excitement surrounding it. A younger cast, a fresh setting, a different angle on the Trek universe. Stories centered not on the captains and admirals we'd always followed, but on the students, the hopefuls, the next generation of Starfleet officers in a very literal sense. The show represented something Paramount Plus was clearly hoping would future-proof the franchise. Younger characters mean younger audiences. Younger audiences mean longevity. But even as the show launched, the writing was already on the wall in ways that fans might not have fully registered. The business pressures on Paramount Plus, now merged, restructured, and reevaluated under the Skydance acquisition, had fundamentally changed what the platform needed from its programming. And Star Trek, for all its cultural prestige, is extraordinarily expensive to produce. The ships, the costumes, the prosthetics, the visual effects, the sprawling standing sets, none of it comes cheap. And so, quietly, without a dramatic announcement, without a goodbye worthy of the franchise, the pipeline ran dry. No new seasons were ordered for anything. No new shows were greenlit. The machine just stopped. Now here's where the story takes on a weight that goes beyond the usual show gets canceled narrative. Because the true signal that this is over, definitively, irreversibly over, is what's happening right now on those studio floors. At Pinewood Studios Toronto, the sets for Starfleet Academy are being demolished. At CBS Stages Canada, the sets for Strange New Worlds are being struck. And we're not talking about some generic office furniture being carted out. We're talking about the physical architecture of an entire fictional world. Gone. The USS Enterprise bridge, that gleaming, iconic command center that Strange New Worlds lovingly reimagined for the modern era, walking the near-impossible tightrope between retro and contemporary design. That set was a love letter to Star Trek's original vision. Now it's lumber and scrap. Gone. Captain Pike's ready room. The space where Anson Mount delivered some of the most thoughtful, quietly powerful performances the franchise has seen in years. A room that felt warm and lived in and real in a way that few science fiction sets ever do. Gone. The science lab, where some of Strange New World's most inventive episodes found their visual language. Gone. The Starfleet Academy atrium, the grand, sunlit heart of the newer show, designed to evoke possibility and ambition. It was built to feel like the beginning of something. Now it's the end. Gone. The USS Athena bridge, another piece of the Academy Productions world-building, stripped away before many fans even had time to fully fall in love with it. When sets are torn down, productions can come back, but they're forced to rebuild from scratch. And rebuilding from scratch costs millions of dollars that a restructured Paramount has shown no appetite to spend. The demolition isn't just logistical. It's a statement. Fans aren't taking this lying down. A petition to save Starfleet Academy, to keep it alive, to find it a home, to convince someone, anyone, to pick it up, has gathered more than 42,000 signatures. 42,000 people who care enough about this show, about this universe, to make their voices heard in the only way available to them right now. And look, that number matters. It represents real people who formed real connections with these characters, these stories, this particular corner of the Trek galaxy. Fandom petitions have a complicated history when it comes to actually changing outcomes. We all remember the campaigns to save other beloved shows, the hashtag movements, the letter-writing drives. Sometimes they work. More often, they don't. But the demolition of the sets sends a message that is difficult to interpret as anything other than final. You don't tear down infrastructure you plan to use again. You don't spend money destroying things you're going to rebuild in 6 months. These aren't decisions made lightly. They're made by accountants and executives who have run the numbers and decided that the cost of preservation doesn't justify the probability of return. To those 42,000 fans, your love for this universe is real, and it matters. But the walls are coming down, literally, now. And this is important. The end of production does not mean the end of Star Trek content on your screens. At least not immediately. Starfleet Academy has a second season already in the can. 10 episodes that will eventually reach audiences. The final chapter of that story, already filmed, already edited, already waiting. And Strange New Worlds? The show still has 2 more seasons of content to deliver. Seasons 4 and 5, totaling 16 episodes, all of which are produced and will be released in the coming years. So in a strange, bittersweet way, we're going to be watching a franchise that no longer exists in any active sense, receiving its posthumous transmissions, like light from a star that burned out years ago, but whose glow is only now reaching us across the darkness. There's something almost poetic about that. Something very Star Trek, actually. The idea that endings and beginnings can coexist. That what's gone isn't necessarily lost. But let's be clear. When those final episodes air, when Strange New Worlds takes its last bow and Starfleet Academy's second season concludes, there is nothing scheduled to follow. No new adventures. No new crews. No new frontier. That's where the franchise stands today. That here's the question every Trek fan is asking right now. Is this really the end? Or is it a hibernation? The honest answer is, nobody knows. Not even the people making these decisions at Paramount. What we do know is that Star Trek has survived extinction-level events before. After the original series was canceled in 1969, the franchise looked dead. It came back as a motion picture in 1979 and launched one of cinema's most beloved film franchises. After Star Trek, Nemesis tanked to the box office in 2002 and Enterprise was canceled in 2005. The franchise spent 3 years in suspended animation before J.J. Abrams rebooted the whole thing with a blockbuster film in 2009. After that film series lost momentum, Discovery brought it back to television in 2017 and kicked off this exact era we're now watching end. Star Trek has always found a way. It has a level of cultural embeddedness in the DNA of science fiction, in the vocabulary of popular culture, that is nearly impossible to kill permanently. But here's the complicating factor this time. The landscape has changed. Streaming is in crisis. The era of endless content, the peak TV moment when every platform needed exclusive tentpole programming at any cost, is over. The industry has pivoted toward profitability over volume. And Star Trek, as a television franchise, is simply not cheap enough to justify in a world where studios are cutting costs and consolidating content. If Star Trek comes back in any meaningful way in the next few years, it's more likely to be a film than a series. There have been persistent reports of various Trek film projects in various stages of development, from a Kelvin timeline continuation to something entirely new. But reports are not greenlit projects. Rumors are not production schedules. Until something is officially announced, officially funded, and officially moving forward, Star Trek lives in that liminal space between legacy and revival, between what it was and what it might become. Gene Roddenberry once described Star Trek as a vision of humanity's potential, not a warning, not a dystopia, but a genuine, stubborn belief that we could be better, that we could go further, that the future was worth building toward. Maybe that's why it's so hard to watch the sets come down, because it's not just wood and paint and fiber optic lighting being dismantled on a studio floor in Toronto. It's a version of hope being packed into boxes. But here's the thing about Star Trek. Hope, real hope, the kind Roddenberry built into the bones of this franchise, doesn't need a set to survive. It doesn't need a Paramount Plus subscription or a greenlit season order. It lives in the people who watch these stories and carried them forward into their own lives. The era may be over, but the idea of Star Trek? That's going to take a lot more than a wrecking crew to bring down. If this video hit home, smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are you holding out hope for a Trek revival? What would you want to see come next? Let's talk about it. Until then, live long and prosper. We're going to need it. Outro card /end screen.